Hi guys, Jamie Humphries here, and today we're taking a look at some Diatonic 7th Arpeggios. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about Diatonic 7th Arpeggios and my preferred shapes. Now, I've had a few questions on social media, a few emails from people asking me about how to use arpeggios when improvising. Now, obviously you can play the same arpeggio over the same chord. You know, you can hear examples of that in Hotel California. Yngwie Malmsteen has done that a lot. And obviously if you listen to something like Altitudes by Jason Becker, you hear these flurries of arpeggios that follow the accompanying chord progression. Now, I come a little bit more from the Frank Gambale school of application of arpeggios, or should I say, I read both of his books, Technique Book 1 and Technique Book 2, which if you've never read those books, I highly recommend that you add them to your library of guitar information. I use those when I'm teaching. I've got loads of students to buy them. They are just absolutely fantastic. And they really open my eyes as to how to organize the fretboard and also organize my mindset as when it came to improvising, as well as different applications for things like modes and pentatonic scales, intervals, and arpeggios. Okay, so first of all, let's take a look at the arpeggios in the harmonized major scale. Now, what this means is that you start from each note of the scale, and we basically stack thirds. If I start from the note of C, and I play a third above that, a diatonic third above that, I have the note of E. And then I play a minor third above that, which is still a diatonic third. I've just basically gone in thirds through notes of the C major scale, starting from the note of C, and I get a C major arpeggio, or a C major triad. If I start from the D note and I do the same thing, I get D, F, and A. Get a D minor arpeggio. Start from the third note, I get an E minor. From the fourth note, I get an F major. From the fifth note, I get a G major. From the sixth note, I get an A minor. And from the seventh note, I get a B diminished. Now, we can continue this idea of stacking thirds. So, for example, if I take my C major arpeggio and then I stack another third on top from the G note, I get the note of B. So you get this. So you get a C major 7th arpeggio. And if we take that same principle starting from our D minor arpeggio, we get a minor third from the A note there to the C note. And if we add that to the D minor arpeggio, we get a D minor 7th. From the E note, it's an E minor 7th. From the F, we get an F major 7th. From the G, there we get a G dominant arpeggio, which is basically a major triad arpeggio with a minor 7th. From the A, there we have our A minor 7th arpeggio. And then from the B note, from the 7th note, we get A minor 7 flat 5. Now, you can play these arpeggios in a variety of different shapes and different positions, and I highly recommend you learning them based around the cage system. That was the way that I learned them initially. But then I was taught this series of arpeggios quite early on, which was a way of traversing the neck, which I found really handy, which was this shape. But the only thing that I found with that shape was the fact that when I'm on the, when I play that major 7, we had a little hammer on there to the root note, which kind of broke up the picking. And I like to play my arpeggios with sweep picking. And I found that it just made it a little bit harder for me to play fluent sounding run. And the same from each degree. see what I mean if I continue. It was just slightly awkward and it broke up the flow of the picking. Now, I was quite young when I learned these arpeggios and a little bit naive. I thought that if I was taught something a certain way, I couldn't change it. That was the way that you had to play it. And again, that was down to my naivety. But I got hold of a video of Michael Lee Firkins. I was really into Michael Lee Firkins, and there was his video mastering, I think it's called Mastering Lead Guitar, Mastering Electric Lead Guitar, or something like that. But in that video, he played through this incredibly cool run of arpeggios. And I was like, oh, they kind of seem familiar. But he kept this constant sweeping motion going, and also the rhythm as well. It was groups of 6. And it was when he broke these arpeggios down that I had this massive light bulb moment, which was instead of hammering from the major 7th or the 7th, whether the major or minor 7th, the root note, you just eliminate the root note. Whereas before I was going... which again kind of puts it into that nice triplet rhythm. So now that's really nice for your picking hand as well. I'm doing a downstroke on the first note, hammering the next note, downstroke, down, 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 and then I do an up, pull off, up, 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 and then a down again. So and you can do that off of each degree. So when it came to the D minor 7th arpeggio, there was that slightly awkward shape where I was hammering from the minor 7th to the root. Just eliminate that root note. There's your D minor 7th, E minor 7th. F major 7th. G dominant 7th. A minor 7th. B minor 7 flat 5. C major 7th. Now, as I said, that really changed a lot for me. It was a great way of keeping the picking consistent. I was able to play either groups of 6 on each beat or groups of 3, and you could just keep that constant up and down motion. And also then it led to being able to mix the exercise up slightly. So you might ascend one arpeggio and then up to the next position. Things like that. So, you know, it really kind of opened up the doors, opened up the floodgates for coming up with ideas and different ways of practicing the arpeggios. Now, another thing I really liked about looking at the arpeggios in this way was the fact that I could see more of a relationship between different arpeggios. For instance, if you look at a C major 7th arpeggio, we got the notes of C, E, G, and B. If we eliminate that C note, it's actually an E minor arpeggio. So a C major 7th arpeggio is an E minor with a C in the bass. And if I start from the D note and I play D minor 7, you can see there that it's an F major arpeggio. E minor 7th, that's a G major arpeggio. But we just put the E in the bass. F major 7th is an A minor. So you put that F note in the bass. G dominant 7th. That's a B diminished arpeggio with the G in the bass, and then A minor 7th. That's actually a C major arpeggio with an A in the bass, and then our B minor 7 flat 5. That's actually a D minor arpeggio with a B in the bass. So it really made things a little bit easier for me to see about forming arpeggio extensions and superimposing different arpeggios over the tops of chords. And that way you could, you wouldn't have to have like 6 fingers or something ridiculous. You were able to just play, in the Frank Gambale book, he talks about eliminating the root or the third, playing from the fifth, and you can play from different degrees of the chord that you're playing over to form much larger extensions. So it's a really cool way of looking at the arpeggios. So that brings me to the next point of this lesson, which is about application. Now, something that I really love about these arpeggios is being able to start from each degree of the chord. So for instance, if we play a C major 7th chord, if we start from the root note, I can play a C major 7th arpeggio. If we then start from the major 3rd of that chord, that's the note of E, and then we play the diatonic arpeggio bass from E. And when I say diatonic, I mean within the key of. So in C major, we've got C major, D minor, E minor is the arpeggio which is built off of the note of E. So there I will play an E minor 7th arpeggio. So over that C major. It's a really nice sound. You can link those two arpeggios together. And then I can play from the G note, which is the 5th of C major, and I play the G dominant arpeggio. So over my C major 7th chord, I play from each degree of the chord, the root, the 3rd, or the 5th, and I play the appropriate diatonic arpeggio. So C major 7th, E minor 7th, G dominant 7th. And you can do that over each chord. So if you're playing over a D minor 7th, this is one of my favorite ones, in fact. So we got D minor 7th chord. Let's look at the notes of D minor. We got the roots. Let's play a D minor 7th arpeggio from the root. Then let's play from the minor 3rd, which is F. So we play the diatonic arpeggio from F, which is F major 7th. And then we play from the 5th of the chord and we play an A minor 7th. So from that D note, D minor 7th. And when you play that F major 7th over the top of the D minor chord, what you're actually doing is implying a minor 9. It's a really nice sound there. And then if we play the minor 7th arpeggio from the 5th of the chord, we actually imply a minor 11th. All you're doing is looking at the relationship of the notes of the arpeggio to the chord you're playing over. So we can do some really cool things with the way that we play each of these arpeggios. For instance, you can ascend up the D minor 7th arpeggio and then descend down the F major 7th. Remember, you're hearing that against the D minor or D minor 7th, and then we can ascend up the A minor 7th arpeggio. So you get all three of them together. Now, there's some really cool little things that you can do there. And then also you start to imply the sounds of the modes as well. If we play from the E minor 7th, so that's the 3rd chord of the major scale, that's our Phrygian chord, if you like. So we play E minor 7th. And then we play from the minor 3rd of E minor, which is G. So we play the diatonically appropriate arpeggio from G, which is G dominant 7th. Now, when we play that G 7th arpeggio, we've got a G, which is the minor 3rd, B, which is a 5th, and then we've got the D note, which is a minor 7th, Then we've got an F, and that F note is actually the flat second, so it has a real strong Phrygian sound to it. And then our final arpeggio, which also has that F note in. So you're going to get that real sort of strong flavor of the Phrygian mode. We can apply this approach to all of the remaining chords. So if you're playing off of the F major chord, playing F major 7th arpeggio, then from the major third, which is the A note, so you play the A minor 7th arpeggio. And then from the 5th, you'd play the C major 7th arpeggio. Of course, we've got that B note in there, in that C major 7th arpeggio, so that gives us that real strong Lydian sound. So again, we're really outlining the sound of the modes. And of course, you can do this across all 7 chords, playing off the root, the 3rd and the 5th, playing the appropriate diatonic arpeggio. Now, there's just one other arpeggio that I'd just like to spend a little bit of extra time on, which is the minor 7 flat 5 arpeggio, which is this one. Now, that arpeggio, when I first learned it, I thought, what am I going to do with that? Sounds cool, but how often am I going to play over the 7th chord of the major scale in rock music? Not very often. And it was one day I was practicing, and I landed on that G note. I was like, hang on a minute, that sounds very cool. And basically, if you play a minor 7 flat 5 arpeggio, it's a really powerful arpeggio. It's got a great sound to it because of the structure of it, its formula. I like the way that the notes stack, but it works really well against each chord of the major scale in implying the mode. For instance, if we play it against the G, we actually imply a G9. Because you're starting from the B note, there's your major third of G. D is the 5th of G, F is the minor 7th, and A is the 9th. Great if you're playing over a dominant, if you're playing over a blues. You know, it's got that really, really cool sound about it. Now, the other thing I like as well is to look at the minor 7 flat 5 arpeggio, as we did earlier on, where you're playing from the B note, but you're actually playing a D minor arpeggio. But you're playing from a B note, which is the 6th. So the B minor 7th arpeggio is actually an inverted D minor 6th arpeggio. So if you think about the Dorian scale, the Dorian mode, that's got 6ths in it. That's the real strong characteristic of that mode. So if you're playing over a D minor 7th, the B minor 7 flat 5 arpeggio gives you that strong Dorian sound. And it will work over all of the chords. So if you're playing over F, for example, you want that Lydian flavor. Minor 7 flat 5 arpeggio will do the job. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed today's lesson. I hope you found some of this information useful, even if you just use these arpeggios as a way of practicing. You can shift them down onto the E string root note, so you're not just tied to playing them off of the A string. You do have to change the fingering slightly. For instance, the C major 7th now would be... We've got this little bar on the 9th fret D and the G. Slightly awkward shape, but, you know, again, it's great practice for you. But just try to apply some of this to your improvising. You know, if you're playing over a minor chord or even over a power chord, think to yourself, where does that chord fall in the major scale? Is it a minor chord that I'm playing over? Is it chord 2? Then play from the root, the minor third and the 5th, and just play the diatonic arpeggios, and it will sound really cool. Okay, so that's it from me. Hope you've enjoyed this lesson. As usual, click the link below where you can download the arpeggios that I played at the beginning of this lesson, and I'll look forward to seeing you here very soon. Bye for now.